says local recordings off.
Live.
So I may have to send this to LinkedIn and Facebook when we finish.
Okay. Because it's live right now. I don't know where it's
Yes.
going. Okay.
Yes. So let's start. Hello, Crystal. How are you?
Hello, Jevon. How are you?
I am good. I really do look forward to this broadcast. Someone asked me, so what are you doing today? And I said, this is my best busy day. I got the 1 o'clock thing. I got this 7 o'clock thing. We got some stuff going on, but this is awesome. And I have to tell you, you are getting famous. I'm in a networking group, and we have these meetings after the networking group. There's about 3 of us. We call them troikas.
Okay.
And it's called Provisors. That's the networking group.
Okay.
And this gentleman gets on, and the first thing he says to me is, "Where's Crystal?" So,
okay.
Right? So some of that marketing is working there.
Okay. All righty. So, all right. And but it's your networking group live or?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it's live and Zoom also.
Okay.
But we're in the same room, if that makes sense. Yes, we are talking to each other. Yeah, that's down here, but that one actually happens to be via Zoom, and there's a lot of people in that one.
Oh, okay. So I'm famous, huh?
Yes, you're famous.
Well, that's nice.
Okay, I am super excited about this question. I went. I don't know if I told you the question. I told you the question.
5 and
you sent, yeah. You sent it to me.
That thing. I can't find that, but yeah, but it was based upon what I had sent to you, right?
Yes. I wish you'd have told me, and I'd have sent it right back to you. Do you want me to send it back to you?
Yeah, just send it to me. Yeah, because I was looking and I can't find it. But I had a client. I had a client that we were using the internet, the Outlook. And his Outlook went down, so then we had to use mine, and there was all these emails. I can't even find my own stuff.
I know how it goes, man. Let's see here. You sent me an email or a text, right?
I think it was a text. Yeah, I think it was a text. Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Well, I think I just made a promise. Did you sent it to a text? Really? No. It couldn't have been. Hold on.
No, I think it was an email.
Yeah, let's see here. Yep, here it is, and I will forward it back to you.
All right, thank you much. Okay, so let me ask, did you do football yesterday?
I didn't have a dog in the hunt because, of course, my team is the only team out there that we should even really think about.
Oh, okay.
I'm a San Francisco fan,
Oh.
So my team wasn't in hunt. But I just wanted, people ask me, and I just wanted a good game where everybody stayed healthy. That's what I want. Okay. And aside from Mr. Mahomes having, issues with his ankle, I think we pretty much had that.
Okay.
And then, are you a Rihanna fan?
I am a Rihanna fan, and I did enjoy her, and I love the fact that, and I guess because she's pregnant, but I love the fact that she was clothed. That's a nice treat. That
I know what you mean by that, but being the red-blooded American male that I am, a little skin is a nice thing.
All right, she wasn't showing no skin. She wasn't showing no skin at all. She was covered up. Yeah. But she was good. Yeah. So everybody.
I'm going to recall, she was shaking a little something there a little bit every now and then.
Every now and then. But she's a pregnant woman. This is the second baby she's carrying. So.
Okay. Well, how far along is she?
I would say from the looks of it. Now, mind you, she just had a baby less than 6 months ago.
Oh my God.
So she really had not lost her baby fat from 6 months. I mean, from having the baby. She had a baby in May of 2022. So she hadn't lost that yet. So she might be 4 or 5 months, just mainly because her body hadn't gone back to pre-baby body. But I guess she figured if she gonna do this all at the same time, so when she go to put her body back, she ain't losing it again. So I guess that's a good that's a good strategy. But yeah,
I cannot imagine having to make that choice as to if you're going to have a baby or not, and then when you're going to have that baby or not, and then throw in the time consequences. And after you get all of that done, then you got to throw in, okay, how do I go back to having my body before things were growing inside of it?
Right.
That's
it's not an easy
I think
thing.
taxes are tough.
Yeah, right, exactly. God. Imagine being a woman.
Yeah. Oh man, y'all can have that. You can have that.
And think about it, in their world, they're celebrities. So their body is their part of their brand, right? So they have to make some of them have to make some real complicated decisions because based upon if they're going to do some movies or they got concerts coming up. And then some of them choose after a while, after they've done it a couple of times, they get their first 2 or 3, and then they'll do the they might do a surrogate. So quite a few of them actually do the surrogate thing, so that it's their husband and their wives, the husband and wife's egg and sperm, but somebody else is hosting it. But Beyonce lucked out. They wanted obviously 3 kids, and she had the first one, and they got pregnant shortly after Ivy Blue was, I think, 2 or 3 years old, and they had twins. So now she can be done. She can be done. But if you want more than one child, then you got to make some decisions. So I guess Rihanna said, we're going to knock this out back to back, man. The baby's 10 months apart.
I have some friends that have one child, and they're tired. I mean,
one child.
They're worn out, right? So I can't imagine. I mean, I have 2 sisters, and I can imagine my mom was like, look, well, I'll put it this way. My father said, you ain't all that, right? I can make another one of you. And I think one of us had popped off about something. And my mother said, no, you cannot.
No.
We're not going through this again.
So, we are done, husband. We got 3. That's all we're doing. But that's it's a big decision for some women to go back. And then it might not be that easy the second or third time around. So they may have had some complications. So but if you're young, if this is what you want to do, you want to get it early. But tired. My niece, her baby was born 2 months after Rihanna had hers. And the baby's 7 months old, and you don't have time for yourself. I mean, she's married, but she's kind of like a single mom because the baby's dad is working in another country.
Oh, man.
And so she's there 24/7 in Egypt, taking care of her child. And so she's like, man, I got to do everything in little small spurts. And the baby don't necessarily sleep all the time. So that means, might sleep an hour here. So you get an hour to do something and then rest.
Right.
So
it's tough, man.
It's tough, man.
I don't think women know how tough a job that is. I mean, how could you until you're in it?
Until you're in it. And I don't think husbands, now a lot of men are very active in the whole process. You see so many clips on Facebook where the dads are taking care of the moms, and they're trying to emulate the mom, and the mom is they're like, whoa, they have a whole different respect for women at that point. You gotta respect them, man.
Yeah, you do. God bless them.
It's interesting. So we're gonna have a good topic today, right?
Yes, I am super excited. I really do appreciate you sending it to me, and I would like to. It is about the folks that are 65 and saved some money, lost some money, and then now they're wondering what to do with regard to an advisor. And I want to talk a little bit about that and bring some things up. I did bring up some specs here, and I was very tempted to put them on the board, and because I like to write on the board, but we're not going to do that. So, so the first thing I'd like to read is, I retired in October 2016. My wife retired in January 2018. We had a pretty nice nest egg saved up at that time. So we had our financial guy take over our accounts to help them grow. By January of 2022, we had over 500K saved, and we had not pulled any of this money out at all. Fast forward to around October 2022, we watched the stock market do its roller coaster thing and checked out totals every month, checked our totals every month, and marked it on a ledger. We noticed our 401k plan had lost in the neighborhood of $100,000 since the end of 2021. So essentially in a year, they dropped $1,000 or 100 grand.
100 grand.
That's a lot of money. I contacted the investment firm we use, and they set up a telephone meeting with a couple of the advisors. All I wanted to know is why our retirement account had lost nearly 25%. Because I had the understanding that since they had control of our investments, it would be monitored and investments would change to keep this from happening. By the end of this meeting, one of the advisors commented that we could lose another $100,000 in 2023. Since the end of 2022, our retirement account has actually grown by $9,000. So should we swallow our losses, go to another investment company, or stick it out with the current one? There's so much in here, and it's so, we just need to open this up and talk about it, I think.
Yeah, because it was pretty interesting. One, definitely frightening that you lose 100 grand and this is retirement in 1 year. That's quite frightening. And if retirement is on the horizon, like a couple years off, you know, from retirement, how do you actually recoup that amount of money in a short period of time in order to maintain what your lifestyle would be? So very interesting conversation.
Yeah. So a couple of points I wanted to make before we get all deep into it. And that is, number one, he said, we saved up to 500K. I'm just so happy. All right. So you can't just let that happen, right? You got to be intentional about it. So he and his wife saved $500,000. I got to say right there, yay. That's awesome. Right?
Okay.
Saving $500,000. So important. And then lost $100,000 of it. So the second thing that I wanted to point out is we had our, oh no, where was it? We had a we watched the stock market do this roller coaster thing. So we had our financial guy take over our accounts to help them grow. Right. So that's one thing. And we thought, I think it's down here, that here it is. This is the sentence I had. All I wanted to know is why our retirement account had lost nearly 25%, because I had the understanding that since they had control of our investments, it would be monitored and investments would change to keep this from happening. So I don't want to throw aspersions on any other advisors, because all kinds of things can happen. But so often, depending on the investments that you have, who knows? It's anybody's game. Right. First of all, I like the idea, and I'm making some inferences here.
Okay.
One is that someone thought here that the investment advisors had total control over the money, and that the way they managed it would be fine. But it seems to me that there was a miscommunication here, because monitoring your account and making changes is just, well, it's like closing the door after the horses have gone, right? So you don't know when the horses are going to leave. And once they leave, it's tough to corral them and get them back. And if you close the door, they're definitely not coming back in.
Right.
And I think as much as you loved the American saddle and can explain the difference between the American saddle and the English saddle, it makes no difference because your horses are gone.
Right. Yeah, you don't have anything to put the saddles on.
Right. So, so that's all that. There's a segue in here somewhere. And it's just that, when you get right down to it, investments are that type of animal to where you really don't know how they're doing until you look backwards.
Right.
And in my position as a retirement plan advisor for corporations and small to medium-sized companies, I'm always looking forward. Okay, what are we going to do? What's coming up? What are we going to do? And it seems to me that while these advisors may have been looking forward, somewhere in that conversation between the advisor and the clients wasn't a meeting of minds as to how we're going to move forward together.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that the advisors, by saying, hey, and I'm thinking they put some extra terms in here, based on what your investments are, you could lose another $100,000 based on where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that there's a lot, they're saying a whole lot that's very common to people who are not familiar with the market, but who aren't very far away. I mean, they're very close. They don't need to know everything that their investment managers are doing or not doing. So they're close, but they're just not quite there. So tell me what you think about that.
So, right. And we've had this conversation. I think your approach in having conversations or doing that questionnaire on a regular basis, right, can kind of stay off some from confusion on your client side, right? Because obviously, if they're going to complete the questionnaire, then you're going to come back and have conversation with them about that and where they are and where their level of risk or their tolerance is coming up. I would think that if there was $100,000 loss, that there had to be some major conversations had to happen. And not them initiating it. I think the advisor possibly should have been reaching out to them, say, hey, let's have a conversation.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Because, professionals are held accountable, but they have the job. They have the, for lack of a better word, the superior knowledge. So people are waiting on that professional to step up, right? So we as professionals have to step up. We can't assume that people know what our job is. So we've got to step up and do that. And it seems to me, just from this guy's point of view, and I don't have the advisor point of view because, sometimes things are different. When you become a client, I know when I become a client, I'm not always thinking the way that professionals are thinking.
Right.
I was just thinking about my LinkedIn is messed up. Somebody fix it.
Right. Exactly.
And do it now. Right. I don't care if you have other clients. So, so it's interesting. And you're absolutely right. It was the job of the investment advisor to say to that client one of several things. One might have been, hey, this is a pretty aggressive portfolio. In good times, there's a very good chance that you're going to make some considerable cash because you are taking on quite a bit of risk. However, if things go south, you could lose a lot of money. So that's the question that we're having. And this 8 to 10 questionnaire is going to help us navigate that for you, right? So it's incredibly important to do that. And I don't know if they did or not. It sounds to me like they didn't do it. Or if they had done it, there wasn't as you suggested, a conversation about it. Because if you lose $100,000 in your 401k plan or in your investment portfolio, it shouldn't be a big deal. Because not because it's not a lot of money, it is a lot of money, but it shouldn't be a big deal because it can happen, right? You're like, okay, that's what, it's kind of like if you park your car on a hill and you don't put on the emergency brake and your car runs into another car on that hill, you should be okay with that. You should be like, well, I didn't put the brake on. So, it ran into the car. So it's a horrible thing. it happens, but you're not surprised, right? And that, I think, is the difference between folks outside our industry and folks that are inside our industry. Folks that are inside our industry, for the most part, I feel that the surprise is is part of what we're trying to manage. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of what we're trying to manage. So if you're having that conversation of, I lost $100,000, I think I ought to fire this guy, you're in the wrong mix. Your risk tolerance of the way you feel and what you're saying is off, right?
Right.
If you say something like, I have some clients that say, yeah, I lost some money, I'll be in here for a while, it's not a big deal. It ain't pleasant, but it'll come back. I'm all right with it. It's not a big deal. I knew something like this was going to happen. We went in that with our eyes open.
Right. And understanding that there's fluctuation every day. Also understanding that there's so many exterior circumstances that can derail everything, which is what we were kind of looking at the in 2022. There's a lot of upheaval, right? Sure. I think they also, if I recall from that article, that one of the advisors is a little bit flippant. And which, if you're losing your money, don't be flippant with me, man, about my money.
You make this $15, right?
Right. But to the fact that, you could lose even more. Like, well, wait a minute. No, we need to be having some conversation on what is the best strategy. So I don't.
Yeah, you're right. And to be fair to the advisor, at least he did say, you could lose another 100K. Now, we don't know what he said before that. Did he say before that? So when we talk to you about how aggressive your portfolio is, did you understand that this is what we mean by risk, right?
Yeah.
And we learned a lot about that in 2008. I started in this industry in the early 90s. So by the time 2008 came along, I was getting philosophical, and one of the things that we learned was that it cleaned out a lot of advisors that didn't need to be in the business, because between the dot-com scare and 2008, so we got 6 years of running there. Oh my goodness, the market was booming. People were making all kinds of money in the market.
Right, exactly.
You didn't really have to even be a good investment advisor, and by good, there's a lot that we can go with that, because a lot of things were making a lot of money. And 2008/9 let us know what risk actually is. And it taught a whole generation of people what risk is.
Right.
Namely, you can lose your money. So who knows what that conversation was before then, and for the permission of the article, or for the sake of the article.
But I do like the way, now, if this was, you were in this scenario, I like the way you're like, okay, let's have a conversation, because we did talk about, this is great, you can make some money, but at the same time, it's really risky. However, there's a downside to the upside, right? So
yeah.
When do we make an adjustment in the midst of this downfall, or what do we need to do? We need to have some conversation, and you can continue with the risk. But however, if we continue with the risk, this could be what it may look like in 2020, the latter part of 2022 or 2023. So do we want to make adjustments now, or do you want to write it out, but giving them as much transparency as you can, considering you don't control the market?
Yeah. And I have some figures here for you, just a little bit.
Okay.
The first one is there's a couple of different places you can get sources as to where things are. But I was looking at, I believe, the S&P in 2021, up 26% in 2021, up 26%. So if you've got $100,000, that's $126,000. That ain't bad.
Right, exactly.
2022, down 8.28%. Down 8%. So for the whole year, down 8%. So if you don't have a huge amount of money and you made some interesting changes, down 8% could be grim. And if you're fairly aggressive, that was just the S&P 500. That wasn't your small caps and mid caps. I mean, and I mean, the bond market had a different thing going on. So that hurts, right? If you're just saying, and this is why my friends get mad at me, because they say, Jevon, just take care of it. I trust you. No. 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 As much as I want to manage their money for them, just because I feel a little bit paternal over my friends, I have to say, no, that's not the way this works. We had the NASDAQ down 33.1%, the Russell down 21.6%, the S&P down 19%, all the indexes, and then the Dow Jones down 8.8%. All those major indexes down. Okay. Surprisingly, though, the last couple of sentences here are, since the end of 2022, and we're just in February, my retirement account has grown by $9,000. That ain't bad.
Yeah, right.
I mean, let's say you continue that and every 2 months you get a $9,000 gain. What is that? That's 12 or 6 times 9? 6 times 9? What's that?
50.
6 times 50 some odd thousand, 54,000, right?
54,000,
right?
Yeah, $54,000, which now we've at least come in. We're half in to recouping the 500. I mean the $100,000, right? So
there you go.
It's almost that's not bad. But again, having to have those conversations. Okay, let's look at it. If we keep it the way it is, what does that look like month 1, 2, 3, 4, to the end of 2023? And you could recoup. And I guess you're the advisor, but if you're not, if retirement is 5, 6 years off, then you got some time to recoup, right?
I would say you do have some time to recoup, but you also have time to lose more money.
Yeah.
Right?
The upside, downside, always there.
Right? And I would say that many financial advisors, and I tend to agree with them, I'm going to have to say, is that Americans don't save very much. So we tend to be a bit more, and let's not say risky, let's say volatile. We tend to put them in investments that tend to be a bit more volatile than not, right? So it's almost, to me, if you could say that, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but when it comes to investment advisors using tools to help people get to where they are, sometimes it could feel like they're putting them, like they're scanning a little bit more or scoring a little bit more aggressive than they need to be because they don't have any money. So that's kind of tough. But the other issue, and so I guess not the last issue that I want to talk about, but I love that sentence at the end. Should we swallow our losses and go to another investment company or stick it out with our current one?
Okay.
What do you think?
Again, I think for me, it would be, I'd have to kind of look at our relationship in a whole, as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Up until now, knowing that everybody's human and we have no control over certain aspects of the market. So we kind of got to roll with it or not roll with it. So I would look over how long we've been working. I've been working with that person and, overall what our relationship has been and doing some other ups and downs. And, you can stick with it. But however, say, you know what, maybe right now I'm just feeling a little nervous. Can we relook at the risk tolerance that we got going on here? And can we make some adjustments? And then in 6 months, maybe I'll make 3 months, 6 months, I'll make a reevaluation. That's kind of how I would be. Now, if along the way we haven't had, we've had this where we're not respecting each other, or we don't mesh, right? Then I might have to make a decision. I always tell my clients when they ask me for referrals, I always give them 3 referrals, depending on male or female. If it's female, I might give them, a couple women and a male, or maybe a couple of males. And then I tell them, before you make a decision, call each one of them, make an appointment, and have a conversation with them and see how they fit with your personality and with what you want to happen, whatever you're looking for. In my case, it's accounting. How what is your thoughts, and do they fit? And you guys have the same philosophies when it comes to your taxes and what your future plans are going to be based upon what your past is. And I said, so don't make a snap judgment. You talk to one and this is going to be the person I'm going to work with. Have a conversation, explain to them who you are and how you do business, and then see where you guys sync up. Then you make your decision. And I think it has to be that way with any type of advisor. You have to make sure you guys you sync with each other, and they match up your personality. And if you happen to be one of those individuals that, some people are very A-type personalities, and they're very critical, and they're very succinct and very detail oriented. If that's the case, you need to be matched up with somebody that's on that same, you guys can understand each other.
Well said. I think you're absolutely right. For me, I don't think there's enough information in that article to make a good decision, right? Mm-hmm. There's some stuff that we don't have. Like he says, or like you had suggested, and I think it's a great point. If I had been working with this person for so long, let's describe what working with means, right? It seems to me that if you are marking down every month what's going on in a ledger, and then all of a sudden you get surprised by $100,000 loss in your portfolio, how much attention were you paying? And if you were paying that attention, what does that look like? So I don't think this article gives me enough information to say, hey, especially based on what I was just talking there about the ledger and what you said, right? Mm-hmm. Are we working with this person, or is this person managing my money and I'm not paying attention? If this person is managing my money, I'm not paying attention, then the professional owes this person some answers, some big answers, right? You gave us your money. We said we'd monitor it. Obviously, we did monitor it. We monitored it going down. Yeah, you're right. It went down. I mean, that's not helping you. Right? That does you no good.
Right.
And I think so there's some accountability there. But apparently, and we haven't had the most raucous January. It's been up and down, but apparently they've already gained 9,000 of it back.
Yeah.
So, maybe I would say from just what I know here, which is pretty small, maybe this account needs to be broken up into a couple of different accounts at the very least. Maybe we have some short-term money that we need to have stable and doesn't move around. And then we need to have some play money that we can move around. It can go up and it can go down. And then we have some long-term money that is long-term. We're not going to touch that money. And so we can afford to be, depending on how we think, more aggressive with that long-term money. And
right.
The case, all right. So it's long-term money. It'll come up and down, and and we expect it to. I think where I'm going with this is the surprise at what happened, right? I think if you're a financial advisor and you're working with someone, and I say that with quotes and underline and italics, you're working with someone, and you're checking your investments every month, then you shouldn't have been surprised by that $100,000. And if you're checking in with your advisor regularly, and I don't mean calling them every week or calling her on Saturday morning while she's taking her kids to Girl Scout cookies. By the way, I have some Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, yeah, me too. They've been awesome, man. Awesome.
My favorites are the trefoils. I love those. So if you're working with that person, then this shouldn't have been a surprise, right? So, and if it is a surprise, then one or the two of you, as you so eloquently put, are not synced up with the other one, right? I think kudos to this gentleman that I'm thinking is a gentleman. He is my wife. I'm thinking that's a gentleman.
Yeah, right.
Could not be. It could be two
Could
women.
not be, right. But I think it was, but yeah.
Okay, so this person is paying enough attention to where they're marking down what's it look like,
Yeah.
Even at that interval, when you mark it down and it's lower, or you mark it down and it's higher, or whatever, that's a great time to call. And the financial advisors that I know, they don't mind if you call, and they know what's going to happen every month. They don't mind. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If you've got 300 clients and you know that 250 of them are going to call every month, give them a day. It's not that big a deal. They want to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Now I have talked to some financial advisors that say, our clients don't really worry about losses. They got enough money. They've talked to them enough. The money that's at more volatility is money that they can afford to be at that volatility. The money that they're using every day, as long as that is something that, they can manage, and they're cool with that. They have enough money. As you know, I'm probably not one of those people, but there's some of us that can handle some fluctuations and we're okay with it. And then, I think the advisor's job for the most part is to talk that person down off the wall. So something's sticking in my head about, you're looking at this monthly, and yet the advisor's not talking to you about, because you don't lose, or you didn't lose last year, even though we had a 33% drop in the NASDAQ. You didn't lose $100,000 all at one time.
Right.
Right. I mean, that was going out. I mean, that was throughout the year. Now that was 2022. If we take a look at, this is best gains in 22. Best gains in 22. Best days, right? We got Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 564.69 points one day.
Okay.
The S&P 500 added 2.4% to close at $4,431. Its best session since June 2020. The NASDAQ composite rallied 3.1% to 13,000. So, and that's just one day. And then it has a company's stock that I'm not going to mention because they're not paying me.
Right.
Their shares jumped 7% one day, right? So, the very fact that you lost $100,000 but gained $50,000 isn't something that we're hearing here, right? We're hearing at the end, I lost $100,000. So we need a little bit more
information to find out exactly what truly did happen. And
now,
but again,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I like I said, I like your approach where, anytime I think you're dealing with individuals' monies, there definitely has to be a conversation, and you truly have to understand, what your clients' sensitivity points are.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That conversation has to happen. And the information that we're having, and if we can go back to that for a minute, because it's incredibly important. My sister hired an advisor a while back, and when the market took a tumble, she couldn't get in touch with him. So there was no one there to hold her hand. There was no one there to say, okay, I know that's happened, and here's what we can do, but here's the problem why this is why we need to think about this and understand how we're going to go into this situation. What she got was a ringing phone, which made her very, very conscious. Yeah. Overconscious about the market.
For sure.
and these are people that need the money to grow, need the money to grow. And they need to have an understanding, because one thing that I learned early in my career was any investment that keeps you up at night is not a good investment. So based on this, I don't really know where they're coming from. You're marking it down every month, yet you're not having a conversation. You lose $100,000. Now you're upset. You didn't put the parking brake on, and you watched the car go down the hill, and you didn't think it was going to hit the car that it ran into.
Right.
And then,
right.
And from the professional's point of view, we're not hearing what they said. We're not hearing them say in the article, okay, I called Mr. Smith 4 times last year to check out what's going on and see what's happening. Or I called Mrs. Smith once a month to see what was up, could never get a hold of them, left messages, I told Mr. Smith, hey, this portfolio that you have, although it is set up for great gains, if we don't have that, we're going to see some disappointing things, very possibly, that you're going to have some issues with. We didn't have that conversation, right? But I would say that good for the investment advisors that they did happen to get a meeting. I mean, that's good. At least Mr. Smith and whoever just said, okay, you have my attention. Let's talk. And by virtue of the fact that he's up $9,000 now, that's another decision, because it's not all about the money.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's real. That's real talk, as they say. So, but I like what you also said about, if you like your sister, if that person is not calling you back, then there's some issues there, right?
Yeah.
If you're not getting a phone call, there's big issues that we got to have conversation with, because that's all part of that customer service piece. To me, if you're, especially when you're dealing with people's monies, you do have to be conscientious about that. And I know we all get busy. I know I get crazy busy. But I try. Yeah, I'm crazy busy, man. But I go out of my way to make sure that I'm having conversations and letting people know, or I'm just letting them know, hey, this is, the first of the year is crazy for me. So, here's the best way to get to me is I need you to get on my calendar. Here's the link. Even just to have that conversation with me, it's get on the on the calendar, and let's make sure, as opposed to calling me and I can't get to you in enough time, and we're playing back and forth just because of my schedule. So that's kind of that's how I operate. But that's not everybody. That's just me. That's just how I operate.
Well, it's not just you, but it is the way you handle it.
Yes, the way I handle it.
Get on the calendar, and I know for me, if it's not on the calendar, there's a very good chance it's not going to happen. As important as it is.
Yeah.
It's and if it does happen, it doesn't happen the way that it should happen.
Yes, so, exactly.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, but get on the calendar.
I love this article, this point I made here about that. The love, did you imagine that? I love the point I made. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
You love the point you made.
Yeah. What I wanted to say was, it is interesting how we have days in the market where we have huge losses and huge gains. And so for that reason, we can't say, well, let me put it this way. We don't really know when to get out and when to get in.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work that way for most people. And especially for most people that work at the accounts that I work. And those are 401ks.
Okay.
You cannot say when the market's going to go up and when it's going to go down. It just doesn't work. I mean, there are some folks who are amazing, and they're able to predict so that their losses are a little bit lower, and they're able to capitalize on some gains. And, they've got some tea leaves that they throw down and things happen, right? But for every one of those people, there are thousands of folks who try to do the same thing and lose horribly. And I, for one, think that there is a way to manage your portfolio in most cases so that the losses aren't a surprise to you as bad as they could be. And there's just a little bit of understanding that you have to have. And I think to be a good investor, you don't have to go to Wall Street. You don't have to go. You don't have to go to some finance class or something like that. But you do have to have what many financial advisors, and a very famous one out of Omaha, sort of alluded to, and that was some kind of process to get you to where you want to go, and some ability to, or some kind of process that you feel you're going to be able, is actually going to work for you, a process that you can do, and the discipline to get that done. So based on those three things, this is an interesting story. If you don't want to do that, and you're going to hire someone to do that for you, which I don't think is a bad thing, you at least have to check into them, check in with them on a regular basis to see what's going up, so that they can converse with you and say, hey, so I'm really not a fan of, unless someone is 12 or, or incapacitated in some way, I'm really not a fan of letting regular people or having regular folks work with advisors where that advisor has total discretionary authority over their account.
Yeah, I don't think that should be, I mean, anybody, your CPA, your business manager, no one should have that kind of clout, because things happen, and there's a lot of there's a lot of evidence out there when you give somebody too much power. What happens? And they know that you're not looking.
Well, there's that. And I also think, Crystal, that's very true, right? Like, he's not looking that closely. By the time he looks at this, it's going to be over and done, and we'll be fine, right? There's that. But on the other hand, I think as well, there is, hey, I think about this way, and I talked to you about it last year, and you said X, Y, and Z. And so I'm thinking this is going to be okay with you. Right? And you're thinking it wasn't okay last year. It certainly ain't okay this year.
Right, exactly.
So, you have to get a little bit more involved. Now, I think, there are some folks who have that kind of money to where they really don't care if it goes up a mil this year or down a mil. I mean, they just don't, or they don't have that mindset, and then they need people to protect them from themselves. Maybe that's appropriate as well. I don't really know those folks. Those folks are my clients.
That's true. That's very true. But good. But the conversation is that's excellent, man. What do you do when you have these situations? And so that was a good question that they have. And like you said, we don't know all the pointers from the advisor's side, but open communication is good.
Take that away with us, right? I think you're spot on. That is the deal. It's open communications, because surprises can be nasty. You know what? I think I should read your bio, because everybody knows who I am, and then you can get the last word. Is that cool?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Here you go. So everyone, please welcome my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant, the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's the co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show. Maybe I should say another, or the other radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College. She is a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Thank you, Crystal, for being with me one more Sunday.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. And this is good stuff because, with my client base, majority of all my clients are entrepreneurs. So, they feel that retirement is so far off, if ever. um, so this is a good conversation for them to at least put it somewhere in their brain that no, even entrepreneurs, we do retire as well, and we have to be prepared for it and make sure we have things together so that can happen. I've had some very interesting conversations with my clients recently, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even know that was an option." So, but in regards to the topic we spoke on today, I just have to say that if someone is managing your money, you do need to have regular conversations, and you need to make sure that you both are on the same page. And things in our lives change. So when those things change in our lives, maybe, we've had some tragedies or something, anyone that's interacting with your future livelihood, you need to get on their calendar and bring those people up to date. You bring those people that are you're relying on to manage your retirement portfolios, to have a conversation with them. Hey, this changed right now, and I'm a little nervous. So what should I be doing? I'm a little nervous right now. And that, I think, will clear up and make sure there's always transparency and clarity on both parties' part.
Well said. Well said. I believe with that, we should end our broadcast. What do you say?
All right. Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Jevon Thomas, retirement plan advisor, and
Krista Mitchell. I'm a business coach and a podcaster, and glad to be here. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. That's tomorrow. So please make sure you hug a loved one and let them express how much you care about them. At least tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.
All right. Thank you much now.
Okay.